Welcome to Alive and Well, the podcast for the new era of high achievers. You're done burning out, and you're ready to lead, work, and live in a rhythm that honors both your brilliance and your body. I'm your host, Michelle Grosser. I'm a trial attorney turned nervous system strategist, and I've lived the burnout story. I know what it's like to chase your goals at the expense of your well-being. And I also know it doesn't have to be that way. Here, we're redefining success. It's where productivity feels peaceful, boundaries feel like freedom, and energy comes from within. Each week, I'll share practical tools for nervous system regulation, time mastery, and somatic strategies so you can show up with clarity, calm, and confidence in every part of your life. Because you, my friend, were given a spirit of power, love, and a sound mind. So here's to life and living it fully. This is the path to feeling alive and well. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome to Alive and Well. Welcome back. This is actually our second part of this series that we're doing. So if you haven't listened to the last episode, which is our capacity expansion series part 1, you can go back and start there first. Because in that episode, I talk about why your nervous system feels overactive. It feels like you can never really turn off. You're always wired but tired. And then I walk you through 3 somatic tools that you can use in real time to help your body shift out of a fight or flight response or a freeze response when you need to. So kind of like an in the moment SOS. And these tools matter, and I use them and I teach them and they work. And today what I want to do is I want to talk about a question that I hear all the time. And sometimes I hear it out loud, and then sometimes I kind of can read it between the lines. But the idea or the question that kind of comes up is like, hey, if these somatic tools help, if these, in the moment, like 2 or 3 minute tools that I can do with breath and movement, if those things help regulate my nervous system, why do I feel like I keep needing them? And it's such a good question. It's such an important question. And I love this question because sometimes when we're just overly reliant on tools or hacks or tips or tricks in the moment, regulating our nervous system can feel really temporary, right? We feel dysregulated, we go to a tool, okay, we feel better again for a little bit. And then, a couple hours later, or minutes maybe, something else happens and we feel like we need that tool again, right? So we can use those tools to shift our states, but sometimes it feels like that is temporary and we feel activated again just a few hours later. So it feels like we're constantly managing. We're monitoring our stress levels, and then we're trying to grab some of the tools that we know that help us to manage our nervous system just to get through the day. So this episode, this part of the series is really about that gap, because tools alone, while helpful, and I use them and I think they're great, those tools alone, those in the moment regulation practices, don't really change your baseline. What does is growing and building your capacity. So if you've been using nervous system tools regularly, maybe something that you've learned here on the podcast, maybe you've been through one of my programs and you found something that really helps for you, awesome. I love that. And if you feel like you're reliant on the tools that you're using, it doesn't mean that you're doing anything like wrong per se. It just means that your nervous system has been under chronic sustained load, right? Chronic sustained stress, pressure, trauma, activation, what have you. Your system's been carrying stress for a long time. So it makes sense that it would need frequent support. But here's the distinction I think that most people never learn is that regulating in the moment isn't actually the same thing as expanding our capacity. Because regulation is that SOS. It's that in the moment, like, help me come back into my body for the moment, for now, right? Let me get back to the present. Let me just get back into my body so I can feel good enough to go and do the things that I know I need to do. Those are those regulation tools. Helpful, 100%. But capacity is what determines how much your body can even handle and hold before you feel activated, before it tips into a fight or flight response. And that's really the focus of my work. That's really what I want you guys to be able to expand. It's not that I want you to be able to do more or have more stress in your life or any of that stuff. It's that there is a certain level of stress in our life that is inevitable, right? We all have responsibilities. We all have expectations. We all have demands on our time and our energy and emotion. Is it important that we get really clear on what actually matters and cut a lot of the fat? Yes. Is it important that a lot of the things that stress us out that can be reduced or eliminated are? Yes, 100%. But we're never going to be able to eliminate all stress, right? So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I can grow the capacity of my nervous system to handle the stress that is good in my life, right? The things that I want to keep doing and managing and holding, and not allow the stressors in my life to stress me out. And that is where nervous system science, I think, really matters, because when I talk about our capacity, we describe this, we talk about it with this term of our window of tolerance. And every single one of us has a window of tolerance, our bandwidth to handle stress. And it fluctuates. It fluctuates moment to moment, day to day, right? Week to week, depending on so many different factors. But that window of tolerance, our capacity, it represents the range of stress, the range of emotion, how about stimulation, and demand that our nervous system can tolerate while staying regulated. So when my bandwidth is wide, right? When I've expanded my capacity and I have a really wide window of tolerance, stuff can come at me all day and I can handle it and I can stay regulated. I can stay present, right? I can stay with continued access to my prefrontal cortex and all my executive functioning skills. What does that mean? It means I can handle pressure without unraveling, spiraling, having a meltdown. It means I can recover faster after stress. It means that my reactions feel proportional to what's actually going on around me. It means that my life feels demanding. Sure, there's things I want to show up for, but it's all manageable. But when our bandwidth shrinks and when our window of tolerance and our capacity narrows, and maybe you can relate to this, I know I certainly can, moments in my life, seasons in my life, where I know I can see, intellectually I understand that small little things in my day-to-day are feeling really overwhelming. Like it just feels like too much, right? And I'm moving through my day with so much urgency. It feels like I'm behind on everything and there's so much to do and I'm never going to get it done and no one can move fast enough. Like the people in the grocery store are walking too slow. The people driving in front of me are driving too slow, right? People on the sidewalk are walking too slow. Maybe you can relate to that. You feel irritable. You kind of want to just shut down. You feel overwhelmed really quickly. And then in those states with a narrow window of tolerance, all of our little regulation tools and tips and hacks, they just feel so necessary for us to get through the moment. And most of the women that I work with, it's not that they don't have any of those tools, right? It's not that they don't have a tool problem. They have some tools in their toolbox to manage stress, but ultimately the issue is deeper than that. And they come to me, and what they're not realizing is that they actually have a capacity problem. Our capacity grows and shrinks depending on a bunch of different factors. And one of the main reasons that you'll find that your bandwidth shrinks is what we call allostatic load. And all that means is that there's a cumulative impact of stress on our body over time. So when we experience stress and our body's like, boop, sending you into a stress response so you can respond to what's going on around you, right? I'm going to send you into fight or flight or freeze or fawn, whatever I think is going to serve you best in this moment to stay safe. When our stress responses are activated again and again and again and again all day long for many days in a row without there ever being a full completion to that activation, right? Without it being able to kind of close that stress loop or come back down to baseline stress level. What happens when we stay on alert is that our nervous system adapts and it just stays activated, right? Hyperactivation all of the time. And over time, right, when that's happening day after day after day after day for maybe months, years, decades for some of us, our baseline is constantly being shifted upward. And we're teaching our nervous system that stress is constant, and that shrinks our bandwidth. And this is why we can intellectually know all the right things, right? And still feel really dysregulated, because insight, learning, information, none of that widens our bandwidth. None of that expands our capacity or widens our window of tolerance. Our window of tolerance is expanded through experience. And this is where so many people I work with can get stuck. They come to me feeling stuck because, and maybe this feels true for you, you're probably really good at top-down strategies. What do I mean by that? I mean, everything that you're facing, all of the stressors in your life, when you think about managing them, handling them, the things that you've got to get done, you're approaching everything from the top down, head first. So you're trying to think your way through your problems. You're trying to rationalize your feelings, right? The things that make you frustrated, upset, sad, angry. Like you're trying to understand all of that and rationalize it. You're trying to explain why something makes sense or doesn't make sense. You're trying to tell yourself or convince yourself that you're okay. But when your body is in survival mode, again, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, that part of your brain, your thinking brain, is not in charge. Your survival brain doesn't speak a verbal language. So we cannot think or talk our way into a state change. We have to communicate with our nervous system in a way that our nervous system actually understands. Sensations, movement, right? Rhythm, relationship with others, safety cues. So if all of your regulation efforts live in your head, your body is never going to get the message and you're not going to feel any different. And I see this in so many women who come to me and they're deeply self-aware, right? They can tell me exactly where and why they're stressed. They can name some of their patterns. They can spot their triggers. But when I ask them like, okay, this is all great awareness. Now, tell me about how you've actually allowed your body to feel and complete all of these stress responses you're telling me about. I kind of got this deer in the headlights look because they've understood it, but they haven't embodied it. And that's a huge gap. That's a huge misstep because this is where a lot of our foundational habits matter. And not in this like, taskless checkbox thing of like self-care, all the things I got to do to like take care of myself. But I'm talking about things that are built into our lifestyle that are true capacity expanders. I always teach about 3 categories. I'm going to talk to you guys about them here briefly, but these are the big 3 things that we work on inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint when it comes to our capacity. The first one is movement. There's no way around it. Moving our bodies is the most efficient way to discharge stored stress and close the loop in our stress cycle. Movement first. And I always say this, but I'm not talking about like high intensity workouts. I'm not even necessarily talking about exercise. I'm not talking about CrossFit or marathon training, any of that. I'm just talking about moving your body. The second one is stillness. And this is not just like sitting and meditating for an hour every morning. I'm talking about stillness as it relates to limiting our sensory input, right? Silence, turning down the lights, right? Just kind of like, the exhale of all of the stimulation that we have around us. And then finally, the third category that really helps us to expand our capacity is play. What do we do for fun? How do we enjoy the people in our life, right? What are the hobbies that we can just get lost in? What are the things that we do that bring us pure joy and pleasure just for the sake of doing them, not because there's any particular end that we're after? And it's not about doing these things performatively or doing them perfectly, but can we consistently incorporate movement into our days, helping our body complete the stress response? Can we consistently include stillness in our days, right? Can we go pick up our kids from school without having a music or a podcast or an audiobook playing in the background? Can we just sit in silence, right? Can we fold the laundry without the TV being on in the background? Stillness. It teaches your nervous system how to downshift and actually feel safe in those moments of quiet and stillness and restore. And then finally in play, right? Play, signaling safety and connection and flexibility. And when these are missing, you guys, all of the nervous system hacks and tools and everything that you have, you're going to be grabbing at them because they're going to feel like these emergencies instead of just supports for a nervous system that is foundationally supported and regulated. And I just think back, like, man, when I was running a very busy law practice in Miami and raising toddlers, I coped with so much of this stress just through like pushing through and trying to get all the things done, trying to increase my output, increase my productivity, using my time in a way that I thought was quote unquote better. But filling every like line item on my calendar every minute with doing something. And that busyness, it kept me going. It kept me functional, right? It kept me distracted. It gave me purpose. I thought so. And staying in motion, I think, helped me avoid slowing down long enough to actually feel how overwhelmed I actually was. And for season, that worked until it didn't, right? It worked until it didn't, because when we use productivity, busyness, getting stuff done as a coping strategy for stress, controlling things, difficulty being still, just like waiting until the end of the day to finally take the edge off, those are strategies that we've adapted, right? We've taken those on as adaptive measures. They're brilliant. They help us. They serve a function for a season. But the thing is that over time, those types of coping mechanisms keep our nervous system braced. They keep our nervous system on alert. And capacity expansion isn't necessarily about doing less life, right? Like, you're not going to come through my programs and I'm going to be like, stop doing, show me your calendar and stop doing all of this different stuff because, you need more stillness and quiet in your life. And that's not it. I want to teach your body, help you teach your body how to hold more of all of those things without living in survival mode. Because when you expand your capacity, you actually don't need to reach for all of those tools and hacks as often. Your regulation is actually going to come quicker. It's going to be easier to access. Your baseline just feels steadier, right? I wake up feeling grounded and focused and steady in my energy, and I can sustain that throughout the day. Does stress still exist? Of course it does, but it doesn't own you. And that's the goal. And, this is where integration matters so much more than information. Like, you guys don't need a bunch more information about your nervous system. You don't need another podcast episode that you're going to save and like never come back to. You don't need more insight. You don't need more like worksheets that are just going to sit in your inbox. You don't need a PhD on the nervous system or any of this stuff. What you need is strategic sequencing of this work, right? There's an order, there's a rhythm to it. You need repetition, consistency, right? Getting those reps in over time. That's how we rewire our brain and form new patterns. Patterns in the ways that we think, the ways that we speak, right? The ways that we behave. And you need a container that helps you practice this work consistently. You need support. You need a guide. You need people that you can share this with. And that's exactly what we do inside of Burnout Recovery Blueprint. It's exactly what the program is designed to provide. The integration part, that missing gap to help you expand your capacity so you can hold the stress of life without it stressing you out. And I'm not just going to give you tools. I'm actually going to teach you how to regulate. And then you're going to do it in real time throughout the week until we come back again together. And I'm going to teach you how to expand your capacity. And you're going to integrate all week and put these little changes into play and watch your capacity expand, right? I'm going to teach you how to change your baseline stress level and how to really integrate this work into real life, into your work life, into your motherhood, into your marriage, into your community spaces that you fill. It really infiltrates every part of your life because it's so foundational to how you think, speak, and show up. And enrollment for Burnout Recovery Blueprint is open right now for the January cohort. It closes on Friday night at midnight Eastern time. If you're listening to this in real time, we start next week. January 21st is our first live call. They're on Wednesdays. So if this resonates, if this is something that you really want to change how you experience life, right, in 2026, my invitation to you is to join us in the January cohort. So that's part 2 of this series, right? We talked about the tools, nervous system tools in the moment in part 1. Here in part 2, we talked about like, yes, those tools are important, but foundationally, we have to get to the root of why we're becoming so dysregulated all the time. And then tomorrow, come back for part 3 of this series, because I'm going to speak directly to you. If you are exhausted, if you're tired of being tired, right? Tired of managing burnout on your own, we're going to talk to you about Burnout Recovery Blueprint. I'm going to talk about why like the DIY patchwork quilt of nervous system work often stalls out, and how having the right structure and the right support really changes everything. So if you've been feeling the pull to Burnout Recovery Blueprint, if you want to know more, tomorrow's episode, it's coming out on Friday. That's the day that cart closes. Really giving you some additional things to think about or consider as you make your decision whether you're going to join us in the January cohort of Burnout Recovery Blueprint. And I really hope you do. The room is filling up. I'm so excited to meet y'all and get started with you. I'm so hands-on in this program, so you're going to have access to me not only for an hour every week on Wednesdays for the next 10 weeks, but you're going to have me in your back pocket. You're going to be able to ask questions, send me texts, send me voice notes, and I'm really going to be with you in it as you go through this journey in learning how to expand your capacity. So good. All right. Thanks for hitting play today. Always so good to be with you guys. I love y'all so much. I'll talk to you soon.
If you love Mommy's Podcast, leave a review.
Thanks for listening to Alive and Well. If today's episode resonated, would you do me a favor? Take 30 seconds and leave a 5-star rating and short review. It really helps to get this show out to other people just like you who could also use the information in this podcast. And if you're ready to take the next step in regulating your nervous system, download my free Nervous System Reset Guide. It's linked right in the show notes. Inside, you'll find simple, body-based practices to help you feel more clear, calm, and connected starting today. Make sure you're following the show so you don't miss out on what's coming next, because you were made to thrive. Fully alive, fully present, and fully well. I'll see you soon.